Hi everyone, welcome to Potluck Food Talks. Today we're going to talk about the bear. I finally saw the bear, man. Like after, am I late to the party? Is it too late or?
Oh man, you're super late to the party. You're ridiculously late to the party. The fact that we're making an episode now is just kind of, it's a little bit silly.
But you know, the good thing about it is that if someone hasn't seen it so far, you know,
then you can listen to the episode and have it completely spoil it for yourself. Yeah,
exactly. That's exactly what we're going to do. Like, if you haven't seen it, go and see the whole series. It's how long? Like 8, 9 episodes? Something like that?
Yeah, the first season. Then there's a second season also. I don't know if you saw the second season.
No. I just finished the first one. I'm going to start we can do an episode on the second one. And if it's worth it, I don't know. I have to see it.
It's very different to the first one.
Hey. We're here to spoil the first one, not the second.
Okay, all right.
So what are your thoughts on the bear?
So I enjoyed it very much. It's always difficult with media representation of sort of like culinary, this like culinary abyss that is the restaurant world. But in there, obviously, there's some things that are kind of like a little bit cringy, a little bit not so accurate, and a little bit overdone.
Like which ones, for example?
Like, just like this whole in-your-face kitchen culture, like the terminology, like behind this, behind that, is sort of like...
yeah. It was a little bit overacted. I agree on that.
A little bit, yeah. But in other like examples, like in other like food movies and stuff that try to portray kitchen, culture, it's like even more so. But that being said, I thought it was really well done. I thought the story was really cool. It was shot beautifully. The acting was really good. I think... what's his name? Jeremy Allen White. Is that his name? I thought he was perfect for the role. He did it super well.
Well, in my opinion, similar to yours, I think it's super well portrayed. Many things of the restaurant, of the social dynamics inside a restaurant. And same, like some things were a little bit not so cool. And something I missed, but I understand, is the actual cooking action scenes, like when they were deep in the shit, it was like cut down next day and everybody's happy again. And I was like, man, those are actually but I understand that it's a TV production. And I can imagine, for example, which is the epic episode? The episode
Number 7, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, let's not get to it too quickly.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a heavy episode. Yeah, but I agree with you. The cooking parts is kind of like, you see, but that's the thing. It's so hard to get right. And they had a really good culinary consultant.
It was the maintenance guy was one of them, I guess, right?
Exactly. Matty Matheson.
Yeah, he was one of the chefs of Munchies and Vice, right?
Oh man, he's huge. He's got his own show, he's a massive celebrity.
Canadian, right?
Canadian guy, yeah. And I personally love him. I think the food that he cooks is really cool. I love his persona. And I think it's hilarious. He was one of the producers, I think, and the like culinary consultant.
You can really tell that there were culinary consultants because there are so many details, for example, that I've seen hundreds of times in different kitchens, like, for example, when the dishwasher says, everybody listen, whoever puts this in the dishwashing machine like this, I'm going to kill him or whatever. And everybody, yes, chef. I've seen that in every single kitchen I've worked,
yes.
And that's sort of like a real insider, you have to know to portray something like that.
100%. And
that there are many, many things like that. It's so easy to screw a movie for not having a proper consultant. Like there was this chess movie, like Bobby Fischer, the Super End tournament against the Soviet Union and blah, blah, blah. And all the actual chess scenes were crap because there was no consultant.
It's terrible.
How can you do something like that? Such a huge production and how expensive can be, like an average chess teacher just to get that right, like.
No, absolutely. It's like when you see people play, like, for example, violin, and they have like a violin scene where they're playing violin, and it just, even if you know just the tiniest bit about how to play the violin, you can just see like they're just going like, and it just ruins the whole scene if you just like, because you can't unsee it, and you kind of like, how difficult would it have been to have somebody there just for that scene to be like, no, move your hands like this, kind of go long stroke, blah. No effort at all. And it's like that. And it was like that in the bear, like you didn't see a lot of the food. Like I feel like Maddie, I don't know what the dynamics are. If it's possible, what makes it possible, what makes it not possible. Maddie is a real chef, right? A real chef, a real successful businessman. Also, he's got loads of restaurants. He worked himself up from nothing, But like, for example, when you see the flashbacks where Carmi is working in the fine dining kitchen.
Right. Like that scene, that remind me a lot of experiences we lived together in this kind of restaurants when the head chef comes near to Carmi and says, "You motherfucker, I'm going to fucking kill you." Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the food that they're plating looks absolute bullshit. Like the food that they're plating in like the best restaurant in the United States, it looks absolute crap. It's like a raw piece of salmon with some like carrot julienne next to it. And it's like, you're like, Jesus, what the hell? There's like gels and stuff, but it just, nobody would serve that.
Yeah.
But maybe it was a creative liberty that they took to like not portray it how it would be, but to make it seem just very, very fake,
So let's get into the plot. Well, what's more the history about? Is this guy that he inherits his brother restaurants after his brother kills himself. His brother had like an addiction. And apparently this restaurant was something really special for the people in that neighborhood. So he wants to, bring it back to life and do things properly. And so he's this high-end trained chef and arrives to this mom and pop kind of restaurant. And it's funny because I've also seen that, that conflict of someone. I've been that myself, like coming from a high-end training place to like, let's say a tapas bar, for example. And then there's this conflict of people saying like, who do you think you are? We've done things like this always and blah, blah, blah. Like you get to see that a lot. And also like the way that Carmi and also Sydney, they gain the loyalty of the workers or the respect, out of just cooking delicious food, and that's something also that I've seen that is super interesting to experience.
Absolutely. That is a really relatable conflict and process also. I've been in that situation many times, actually, coming from really high-end, really high-functioning restaurants to not even like less high-end restaurants, but just to work with people that don't have the same background as you. And there's two sides to that story, also that, maybe the attitude isn't quite right, but like also you want to keep certain standards and until people realize like why, I always feel like, if you like are in the position of Carmi and you come into a new kitchen and you set this and you have to really live it, which he is trying to do. Because, what I thought it was great in the show is that Carmi is like he's a good leader in a way because he lives it. He's there, he's working, he's blah, he's cleaning. He's not just like doing the paperwork and just being sort of like, why is the tape not cut with scissors, blah, blah, blah. He's like really there.
Yeah.
And he really manages to capture people's like heart, that he works with. And I think that's really cool. But it's really difficult. I'm in that position now also, I'm working with a team of chefs where a lot of them aren't trained. And then when you come in, you're sort of like, hey, let's please make sure we do it like this. They're like, why? Why should I put in the extra effort? And you're like, well, it's worth it.
Yeah, like that. And you really need to have empathy to communicate these things properly without being an asshole or an idiot or,
yes.
Like just making them understand why and making them do it also, like, yeah, it's complicated. It's not easy.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about Sydney? You wanted to ask me about Sydney, right?
Yeah, well, what about Sydney? Okay, so we have the plot, like he's there, he's struggling to get his brother's restaurant up and out of depth also, and so then this young woman joins him and says, hey, she wants to do a trial shift. She wants to apply as a sous chef. And she knows about his background, that he was a very high-end cook in New York. And she's like, well, what are you doing here now? He's like, well, I'm just making sandwiches, because obviously the whole story is too difficult. And she's still very green and very fresh in her career. And he kind of takes her and the fact that she understands certain processes in, professional kitchens the way that he does. He kind of uses her to try to implement these in his kitchen, as you would with the sous chef. But also, Sydney is obviously struggling. She's kind of stuck in between the team that's there since like forever and that have a really horrible way of like communicating with each other. It's just like, being on a playground in, high school or whatever. And obviously between Carmi, who is kind of pressuring her to be sort of like, hey, we really need to make sure we do this. We need to make sure we do that, which she asked for, she asked for the sous chef position. No? So it's kind of what she chose. But I wanted to know what you hear because I wanted to hear what you think of her. What's your opinion? Because a lot of people really, really like her and think that she is a very positive light in this show. And I thought personally that a lot of things that she did in the show were very problematic and not okay.
Yeah. So you told me when I told you that I was watching the show, you asked me about her. So I really, analyzed the character. And well, she strikes me as an interesting character, but also the most unrealistic of them all, because you see everyone else, like the grumpy old smartass lady, the nerdy pastry chef, the eccentric cousin that is, smarter than everyone else. I've met like 20 characters just like them all, like in different kitchens. You know these guys. You see them over and over again, right? But like an archetype, right? That fits into those characters. But for me, Sydney, for me, it was kind of unrealistic because, it's not someone you meet in the real world, because there's a contradictions that makes her seem unbalanced as a character. She's portrayed as this slightly nerdy girl fresh out of the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, which is a super well-known school, expensive as well. And she carries this inexperienced vibe of just graduating, yet at the same time, she exhibits, leadership qualities, akin to a Dalai Lama, real patient, and this and that. And for me, that's not like that. When you see this kind of profiles, especially young people with responsibility, and you could say power, they're usually abuse of that responsibility and that power, and they don't have that tact. And actually, at the end of the series, spoiler alert, all of this comes out, like all of those bitchy qualities, and I was like, oh, okay, now I buy it. So that's my opinion on that character. There are these scenes where, for example, there is no gas, right? And she builds like a grill with bricks and does like a whole grilling outdoors and runs the service without breaking a sweat. Like nothing ever happened. Like she would do that every day. And I'm like, okay, that's actually like something you celebrate, like if you do something like that, it's like, oh, look what I did, like it's not something like easy common sense that you just do. Like you have to have lots of experience and think fast and, and so that for me, that's my opinion about that character.
Yeah. I mean, like I have met characters like that a few times. In different scenarios. I mean, one scenario that I can think of is, for example, BCC graduates,
Yeah.
Like I can see them being like that, fresh out of culinary school and be like, no, listen, what we need to do is we need to implement this app that can take the orders, and then you'll see, no, you'll see it'll be much better than what you've been doing for 20 years. And while there might be a point to that, there's also a sort of like humbleness that these people need to learn, is that even though they've studied something, they paid money to go to a school, there's also street smarts, and there's a reason why business has been run in a way, and there needs to be a balance between those two. I'm not saying one is better than the other.
That's like a super interesting topic. I once had a discussion exactly about this when I was in design school, and I remember there was this other student that was fresh out of a military career, right? So, and the discussion was about, he had this motto or mantra or whatever that apparently is something that I can understand works like that in the military world. And I couldn't get him out of that. And it was this: you never change the running system, which is doing things as they've always have been done. And I've been in restaurants where it's super interesting to discover that things that you've been doing the same for the last however long time, just you find a way to make it better, and you change it, and then suddenly it's, oh wow, we're saving time, or we're making this easier, or whatever, you know, like. And yeah, I think that's interesting, because that's exactly the conflict in that specific situation.
Yeah, no, totally. Totally. I'm also not a fan of like, oh, you don't change the running system. I think that's absolute bullshit. I think that's a sign of like weak stability, like being able to adapt and change something, and also having an open mindset to being like, oh, sorry, like this is my way, but you found a way to make it better. Hey, amazing. Let's take that. Why would you stick to something if you could do it better? But, also, like in the very end, obviously the episode 7 is the one that gave lots of people like, massive anxiety, because things just go very, very wrong.
It's incredible. So epic.
And basically it's all Sydney's fault. I mean, there's nobody else's fault. Just Sydney, she wanted to implement this like to-go order system. She left the orders open. And then there's the scene where like, Kami wants to take over, and she's sort of like, no, I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, and he's like, step off the expo. And she's like, no, and it's like, start arguing, and she's like, no, but the thing is like, blah. And it doesn't matter, step off the expo. And she's like, no, but like, and he's like, step off the fucking expo right fucking now, And it's like, yeah, like, okay, you caused the issue, then you, like, and then it's kind of like, there's a problem, we just need to fix it. And there needs to be no blah, blah, blah here, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, no, just straight. It's kind of, okay, step off the expo. And no, there's no time for that, Let's just everybody get a fucking move on, At that point, the chain of command hits. There's one person telling everybody what to do. You do this, you do that, you do that, you do that. So we get out of the shit, And she just like couldn't accept the fact that she is causing this.
No, and everything goes worse and worse, like then she, yeah, I think that scene is incredible, but I remember exactly where I was seeing it. I was in the gym and the walking machine. I was watching the bear there, and I was laughing like, wow, I can't believe this.
Hey, but honestly, it's made me so angry that people are so upset, because also then the pastry guy, he comes to Carmi, and he's been like, he's also super behind on his desserts because he's fucking around with his donuts. And they keep telling him, please get the cakes ready. We're in the shit. Please make sure the cakes are. And he's like, yeah, whatever. He's got nothing ready. And then he comes to Carmi in the middle of the shit, and he's like, oh, look, I made this donut. Then Carmi's like, are you fucking with me? Are you really fucking with me? And just like throws the donut to the ground. And everybody's like, oh, that's really shitty. He worked so hard on the donut. And I'm like, bitch, really?
For me, it was absolutely natural, a natural reaction.
Super understandable. And I feel like we're having a very unpopular opinion here, because the vast, majority of the internet has a different opinion. Yes, people are sort of like, oh, that wasn't cool.
No, but these are people sitting on their couch, watching this at home, on their comfort of their home, and they have never felt the adrenaline of a service. They have never been in the shit of a service when shit goes wrong. And they're saying, oh, he's so rude. He could have said that more politely, Could
have said it nicely. Could have tried a donut at least,
Yeah, exactly.
But it's just sort of like this infuriation of sort of like also of like the build up, because it's not like that's one thing goes wrong, you just completely flip. It's like, man, I've been telling you for so long please, do you have this? Can you make sure you have that? Do you have it? Yes. Okay. Yeah, fine. Are you sure? Because I don't see you doing it. Yeah, still okay. Yeah, all right. Now is the time I really need it. And what do you give me? A fucking donut?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's how you drive a man insane.
No, and also like it's also that's what I say when that I really saw the inside of that character is when Sydney is walking around and she doesn't say it's behind, which is something probably that's the reason why they were so emphatic with that for the whole series, so that you get the point that she didn't say it and someone walks and she makes like a big mess, so she walks into the cousin and then food all over the place, and he says, you didn't say behind. And she goes like really mad about it.
Yeah, and she's like, fuck you. And it's like...
Yeah, exactly. And start making it personal, like, you're such a loser and this and that, and I was like, oh, okay, that's what I was expecting of someone of that profile,
Exactly. And honestly, for me, it's like a representation of bad leadership. It's like preaching, and then you don't do the rule that you're implementing.
Exactly.
Something goes wrong because of that, and you get angry at everybody else. This is the exact opposite of what good leadership looks like,
Dude, it's so easy to say, sorry, my fault. It's like 3 words and the problem is over. You just need to say that when that's the case,
And especially in that situation, like you are now, because everybody else, you're in a management position, your whole team is looking at you. You make a mistake going against the rule that you implemented. There's a really critical point of like taking action. And the action that you should be taking is like, guys, my bad. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Taking ownership. But then you abuse your position of power, of authority, and be like, fuck you. You lost the respect of everyone straight away. And nobody's going to give a shit about the rules that you're trying to implement anymore. And then also, it's also just like her venting her frustration about her own mistake. The previous mistake, which was the ordering system. And so for me, this character, Sydney, is like the embodiment of bad behavior in a kitchen environment.
Yeah, at least in that episode.
In that episode, for sure.
I wouldn't say that the character is like a complete flaw. I would say.
No, you're right. But in that episode, it's horrible.
Yeah. Also, what happens in that episode? You remember a few episodes ago, we talked about somebody getting in your station. So she's trying to do something, and then suddenly the cousin comes and starts cutting vegetables for her, in their station. And I was like, it was everything at the same time. But yeah, what I really missed there is they had to cook, 300 orders of chicken sandwiches or something. And then it's cut next morning. Everybody's drinking coffee and chilling. I understand that the production of that for TV has to be like an absolute mess, to do a culinary action scene with hundreds of orders, like it has to be probably like a whole week of shooting just for that, for those 10 seconds, I
don't know, man. I don't know. I would like, if I was doing that, I would say, okay, let's get 3 line cooks from a nearby restaurant in. Just put them here. Just put a ticket machine next to them. Just have the ticket machine keep printing out tickets. The whole time, have somebody shout at them like faster, and just make them like cook the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, make 2 of this, make 3 of this, make 2 of this, make 2 of this, make 3 of this, and
that's
and then you
what
get
I
the
missed.
shots.
Yeah, that's what I missed because that's like a key moment that you have to see that to understand why Carmi wasn't so friendly with the guy with the donut, Also, like what I really like is in those moments of absolute frustration, like this, like psychological moments of, sounds and images, like sharp angles, suddenly like abstract images, because it really feels like that, like I think that was very well portrayed as well.
Yeah, but I agree with you. It's really, so far I've never seen a show or a film where you really feel this, this grind, this like push when you're like, where you really feel the pressure and you're trying to concentrate on something and you're making something delicate, like you're cooking a fish. And
maybe Iron Chef as a show.
Yeah, but that's like so dramatic. You don't see like the focused stress, and and like you're trying to make something beautiful and delicate and you're cooking a fish and then the expo is like, we need 2 more. Okay. And then afterwards you do 3 more of this. And then afterwards, and the pressure just keeps building and building and building. And your mental list is getting longer and longer and longer. And you're like, fuck, and you need to get this fast. But at the same time, I need to do it really, really good.
Yeah. You're like deactivating a bomb. That's like how it feels like. Red cable, blue cable. I can't make any mistake, and this shit is going to explode.
That's a good comparison, actually. Yeah, I like that. You should definitely watch season 2. It's very different to season 1. I won't spoil too much. There are a couple of really beautiful things in there. Overall, I liked season 1 a lot better, but there are a couple of things. Richie has a really nice development in season 2.
I saw the first episode, so I saw some of the premises already.
Yeah,
but yeah,
and yeah, watch it, and then we'll do episode 2.
That's it for this week's episode of Potluck Food Talks. If you like what we're doing, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok as Potluck Food Talks. The show airs every Monday.